Hey Taurus, I need you to sit down for this one because what came through in this reading is something that has been sitting heavy on my chest for hours now. You know those moments when you shuffle the cards and you can feel the weight of what is about to be revealed? That is exactly what happened when I connected with your energy around this situation. Before we even get into the cards, I want to set the context here because this is important. We are not talking about some random drama or petty conflict. What the universe is revealing through this reading is a full karmic reckoning that involves an entire family system, secret keeping, manipulation spanning years, if not decades, and the inevitable collapse that happens when people build their lives on lies. This is not surface level stuff, Taurus. This is deep, ancestral pattern type energy that is finally being brought into the light. What strikes me most about your energy right now is how clear it feels. Like you have been through a purification process, while others are still covered in the soot and ash of their own creation. There is a calmness to your energy that comes from knowing you were right all along, from having your intuition validated in the most undeniable way possible. But there is also this sense of almost disbelief, like you are watching something you always knew would happen finally actually happening, and it is both satisfying and surreal at the same time. The situation we are looking at involves family dynamics that were built on maintaining appearances at all costs. I am seeing a family structure where image was everything, where what other people thought mattered more than internal truth, where everyone was expected to play their role and keep their mouth shut about anything that might tarnish the family name. You were either part of this system directly, or you were close enough to it to see how it operated, and more importantly, to see the cracks in the facade that everyone else was trained to ignore. There is a dark secret at the center of all of this, something that people worked very hard to keep hidden, something that if it came out, would fundamentally change how this family was perceived, how certain individuals were perceived, how the entire narrative around this family structure would need to be rewritten. And Taurus, that secret has come to light. Or it is in the process of coming to light in a way that cannot be stopped or contained anymore. And the people who spent so much energy keeping it hidden are now dealing with the reality that all that effort was for nothing, because truth has a way of emerging, no matter how deeply it is buried. So let me walk you through what the cards are revealing about this situation, and I am telling you right now, by the end of this reading, you are going to understand not just what is happening, but why it had to happen this way, and what it means for your path moving forward. The first card that presented itself is the Lovers, and I want to spend significant time with this one because it is absolutely foundational to understanding everything else that unfolds. When most people see the Lovers, they immediately think romance, soulmates, happy partnerships. But the Lovers is so much deeper and more complex than that surface interpretation. At its core, the Lovers is about choice, about the moment when you stand at a crossroads and the decision you make determines the entire trajectory of what comes next. In this reading, the Lovers is revealing a choice that was made years ago, maybe many years ago. A pivotal moment when someone in this family situation stood at a crossroads and had to decide between truth and deception, between doing the right thing and protecting themselves or someone else, between speaking up and staying silent. And they chose wrong, Taurus. They chose the path of least resistance in that moment, the path that protected the secret, the path that maintained the illusion. They chose loyalty to the lie over loyalty to truth. But the Lovers is not just showing me one choice by one person. This card represents a pattern of choices, a series of crossroads moments where each person involved had the opportunity to break the cycle, to speak truth, to refuse to participate in the cover-up. And each time, they chose to continue the deception. Each person who knew and said nothing made a choice. Each person who suspected and did not investigate made a choice. Each person who saw red flags and explained them away made a choice. The Lovers is showing me a web of choices that all supported the same lie, that all upheld the same secret. What makes this particularly significant is that the Lovers is also about values and what you are willing to compromise for. These people, this family system, they valued their reputation more than they valued truth. They valued how they appeared to the outside world more than they valued internal integrity. They valued peace and stability, even if it was fake peace and false stability, more than they valued authentic relationship. The Lovers is exposing those skewed values now, showing how when your value system is compromised, everything built on that foundation eventually crumbles. The imagery of the Lovers traditionally shows a man and a woman with an angel above them, representing divine guidance and higher wisdom. The message here is that these people knew on some level that what they were doing was wrong. They had access to that higher wisdom, that inner knowing that whispers truth even when we do not want to hear it. But they ignored it. They chose to disconnect from that divine guidance in favor of protecting their earthly interests. And you cannot disconnect from spiritual truth without consequences, Taurus. You cannot ignore the angel above you, telling you to choose differently, without eventually facing the ramifications of that choice. I am also seeing with the Lovers that there is a specific partnership or union that was central to maintaining this secret. Maybe it was a married couple who both knew and both agreed to never speak of it. Maybe it was a parent-child dynamic where loyalty was demanded and given. Maybe it was siblings who made a pact to protect each other or protect the family name. Whatever the specific dynamic, the Lovers is showing me that this was not a solo operation. This required cooperation, coordination, mutual agreement to maintain the deception. And that shared complicity is now a shared karma that they are all facing together. The energy of choice in the Lovers also extends to you, Taurus, and this is crucial. At some point, you were faced with your own crossroads moment in relation to this situation. Maybe you were asked to go along with the lie. Maybe you were pressured to not ask questions. Maybe you were expected to play your part in maintaining the family image, and you chose differently. You chose truth even when it was uncomfortable. You chose integrity even when it cost you relationships or standing within the family or social circle. You chose to trust your intuition even when you were being told you were wrong or crazy or negative. The Lovers is honoring that choice now. The card is showing me that your choice to not participate in the deception, your choice to maintain your own moral compass, even when everyone around you was pointing in a different direction, that choice has positioned you on the right side of this karmic equation. While others are now dealing with the consequences of their choice to deceive, you are free because you never tied yourself to the lie in the first place. That is the gift of choosing truth, Taurus. When the truth comes out, you are not scrambling to defend yourself or rewrite your story because your story was already true. The Lovers in relation to karma is also showing me the concept of divine timing in choice consequences. These people might have thought they got away with their choice to deceive. Years might have passed. They might have relaxed, thinking the secret was safe, thinking the statute of limitations on karmic consequences had expired. But the Lovers is connected to Gemini energy, and Gemini is ruled by Mercury, the planet of communication and revelation. What was hidden in Mercury retrograde energy, what was buried in shadows, is now coming out in Mercury direct energy. The communication that was suppressed is now flowing. The truth that was hidden is now being spoken. And the timing of this revelation is spiritually perfect, even if it feels sudden to the people experiencing it. I want to talk about the shadow side of the Lovers because it is really relevant here. In its shadow expression, the Lovers becomes about codependency, about sacrificing your truth for someone else's comfort, about staying in situations that are harmful because leaving feels too hard or too scary. The people involved in keeping this secret were operating in the shadow of the Lovers. They were codependent with the lie. They were in a toxic relationship with deception. They sacrificed their integrity for the comfort of not having to deal with the fallout of truth. And now that shadow is being brought into the light, and they are seeing clearly for the first time what they have actually been devoted to all these years. Not to family values or loyalty or love, but to an illusion, to a carefully maintained lie, to a house of cards that was always going to fall eventually. The Lovers is also showing me judgment and consequences related to relationships and how this revelation is affecting every relationship dynamic in this family system. Marriages are being tested because partners are realizing they did not really know each other, Parent-child relationships are being strained because children are seeing their parents as flawed humans rather than authority figures. Sibling relationships are fracturing because the shared agreement to keep the secret is no longer holding them together, and they are realizing they might not actually like each other beyond that shared complicity. The Lovers, which is supposed to represent union and partnership, is now representing the breaking of false unions, the dissolution of relationships that were only held together by mutual agreement to maintain a lie. And here is something that just came through strongly, Taurus. The Lovers is showing me that someone in this situation presented themselves as highly moral, possibly even religious or spiritual. They might have been the person who gave advice to others, who judged other people's choices, who positioned themselves as having strong values and principles. The irony that the Lovers is revealing is that this person, this supposedly moral authority, was living the biggest lie of all. They were the one with the darkest secret. They were the one whose choices were most misaligned with the values they claimed to hold. And now that hypocrisy is being exposed in the most public and undeniable way. The Lovers is showing me that the higher someone holds themselves up as morally superior, the harder they fall when their true choices are revealed. The second card that came through is the Emperor. And Taurus, this is where we really start to see the structure of how this secret was maintained and protected for so long. The Emperor represents authority, structure, patriarchal energy, established systems, rules, and hierarchy. In the upright position, the Emperor is the benevolent leader who creates structure for the good of all. But in the context of this reading, the Emperor is showing me authority that was abused, structure that was used to control rather than to support, patriarchal energy that demanded obedience without question. Someone in this family dynamic held a position of power and authority. They might have been the primary earner, the head of household, the oldest generation, the one everyone deferred to. The Emperor energy is someone who expects their word to be law, who believes their decisions should not be questioned, who uses their position of authority to shut down dissent or inquiry. And this person used their Emperor energy to enforce the secret, to make sure everyone stayed in line, to punish or threaten anyone who might have stepped out of their assigned role in the family drama. What is particularly insidious about the Emperor in this context is how authority was weaponized to maintain the lie. This person might have used financial control to keep people quiet. Maybe they controlled access to resources, inheritance, family wealth, and the unspoken message was that if you speak up, you get cut off. Maybe they used their position as the respected elder to make anyone who questioned them feel like they were being disrespectful or disloyal. Maybe they used their role as provider to create a sense of obligation, a feeling that everyone owed them silence in exchange for security. The Emperor can create kingdoms, but this Emperor created a prison where the price of belonging was complicity. I am seeing very clearly that the Emperor in this reading represents someone who was deeply concerned with their legacy and how they would be remembered. This was not just about maintaining a comfortable life in the present. This was about controlling the narrative for the future, about ensuring that their name, their reputation, their place in family history would be unimpeachable. That is why this revelation is so devastating to them, Taurus. It is not just about current embarrassment or discomfort. It is about their entire legacy being rewritten. Everything they worked to build, every carefully crafted story about who they are and what they stand for, all of it is now in question. All of it is being re-examined through the lens of this secret. The Emperor is also showing me someone who had a very specific public persona versus private reality. In public, this Emperor was probably respected, possibly even admired. They might have been seen as a pillar of the community, successful in business, active in church or social organizations, the kind of person others looked up to. But behind closed doors, this Emperor ruled with an iron fist. Behind closed doors, this Emperor demanded absolute loyalty and silence. Behind closed doors, this Emperor might have been controlling, possibly even cruel, definitely manipulative in ways the outside world never saw. The Emperor is that classic energy of maintaining appearances at all costs, of being two completely different people depending on who is watching. What the Emperor is revealing about the structure of this family is that it was built like a hierarchy with one person at the top and everyone else in subordinate positions. And in a healthy hierarchy, authority flows from the top down, but accountability also flows from the top down. The leader is responsible for those beneath them, for creating a safe and just structure. But in this family dynamic, authority flowed down, but accountability did not. The emperor at the top could do whatever they wanted, could keep whatever secrets they wanted, could demand whatever they wanted, and there was no accountability for them. Meanwhile, everyone beneath them was held to rigid standards, expected to maintain the image, required to sacrifice their truth for the system. The Emperor, in terms of karma, is particularly interesting because this card is ruled by Aries energy, which is about action, aggression, pursuit, conquest. This person actively worked to build and maintain their authority structure. This was not passive, this was not accidental. Every rule they enforced, every time they shut down questioning, every way they used their power to control others, those were conscious choices. They built this empire of lies brick by brick, and they did it knowing exactly what they were doing. The karmic consequence for that level of deliberate construction of false authority is the equally deliberate destruction of that authority by the universe. I am also picking up that the Emperor might represent not just one person, but a patriarchal system within this family. Maybe this is generational, where the eldest male in each generation held absolute authority and everyone else fell in line. Maybe this is about traditional family roles where certain people had power and certain people did not, and those power dynamics were used to maintain secrets across decades. The Emperor can represent institutional power, and when institutions are corrupt, when they exist to protect the wrong things, the universe has a way of dismantling them entirely. That is what is happening here. Not just one person's authority falling, but an entire system of authority that was built on rotten foundations finally collapsing under its own weight. The Emperor is also about rules and who gets to make them. In this family dynamic, the Emperor made the rules, and the number one rule was probably some version of, do not talk about this, do not ask questions, do not make waves, protect the family name. Anyone who violated that rule faced consequences, whether that was emotional manipulation, financial punishment, being cut out, or ostracized. The Emperor enforced those rules strictly because those rules were what kept the secret safe. But here is what the Emperor is showing me now, Taurus. Those rules are no longer in effect. The authority structure that enforced those rules has lost its power. And without that enforcement, people are starting to talk, starting to ask questions, starting to violate those old rules, because the consequences for doing so no longer matter. The Emperor's kingdom is falling, and his laws are falling with it. What I find particularly powerful about the Emperor in this reading is the message about false foundations. The Emperor is all about building things that last, creating structures that withstand time, establishing legacy. But you cannot build lasting structures on lies. You cannot create enduring legacy through deception. You cannot establish real authority through manipulation and control. Everything this Emperor built is now revealed to have been built on sand, built on secrets, built on things that were never meant to be exposed to light. And now the light is here, and the whole structure is crumbling because it was never structurally sound to begin with. It only looked solid from the outside. From the inside, from the foundation, it was always weak, always compromised, always one revelation away from collapse. The Emperor is also showing me themes around entitlement. This person, this authority figure, they felt entitled to keep this secret. They felt entitled to demand silence from others. They felt entitled to control the narrative. They felt entitled to their position of power, regardless of how they got it or what they did to maintain it. That entitlement is being challenged now in the most fundamental way. The universe is saying, no, you are not entitled to authority built on lies. You are not entitled to respect earned through manipulation. You are not entitled to a legacy that is false. The Emperor is learning that real entitlement, real authority, real respect can only come from alignment with truth, and everything else is borrowed time that eventually runs out. The third card is Knight of Pentacles. And Taurus, I want you to really understand the significance of this knight appearing in this reading, because it tells us so much about how this secret is being revealed, and Bai Wei Chu might be involved in that revelation. The Knight of Pentacles is the slowest of all the knights. Where the Knight of Swords charges in recklessly and the Knight of Wands races forward with passion, the Knight of Pentacles moves deliberately, carefully, methodically. Every step is measured, every action is calculated, nothing is rushed. In the context of this reading, the Knight of Pentacles represents the manner of revelation. This secret is not coming out in one explosive moment. This is not someone standing on social media, blasting everyone with receipts in a moment of emotional breakdown. This is not a dramatic confrontation that burns bright and fast. No, the Knight of Pentacles shows me that this truth is emerging slowly, piece by piece, detail by detail, in a way that builds an undeniable case over time. Think of it like a court case being built. You do not just have one piece of evidence, you have Exhibit A through Z, all carefully documented, all time-stamped, all verifiable. The Knight of Pentacles deals in facts and tangible proof. This is not he said, she said. This is not subjective interpretation. This is hard evidence that cannot be explained away, or gaslight away, or manipulated into something else. Maybe there are financial records that tell a story, bank statements, receipts, transactions that create a paper trail. Maybe there are documents with signatures and dates that prove who knew what when. Maybe there are text messages or emails that were saved and archived. Maybe there are witness statements from multiple people that all corroborate the same truth. Whatever the specific evidence is, the Knight of Pentacles shows it is solid, it is verifiable, it is the kind of proof that stands up to scrutiny. What I love about the Knight of Pentacles in this context is that it represents patience in the karmic process. The universe was not in a hurry to expose this secret. The universe took its time, allowed things to unfold naturally, let these people think they were safe. And while they were relaxing into that false sense of security, the Knight of Pentacles was quietly at work. Evidence was accumulating. Patterns were establishing themselves. Every lie they told, every time they doubled down on the deception, every manipulation they attempted, all of it was being quietly documented by the universe. The Knight of Pentacles knows that if you wait long enough, if you are patient enough, people will expose themselves. They will get comfortable and make mistakes. They will contradict themselves. They will leave trails they did not mean to leave. The Knight of Pentacles also suggests to me that there might be a person involved in this revelation who embodies this energy. Someone who is methodical, thorough, detail-oriented, patient. This is not a hothead acting on impulse. This is someone who waited for exactly the right moment, who made sure they had all their facts straight before saying anything, who documented everything carefully before making a move. Maybe this is someone inside the family who finally had enough and started keeping records. Maybe this is a professional, a lawyer or accountant or investigator who was brought in for one reason and discovered something else entirely. Maybe this is just someone on the periphery who observed patterns over time and finally put all the pieces together. Whoever this Knight of Pentacles person is, they did not act until they were ready. They did not act until they knew they had an airtight case. They did not act until they knew the truth could not be suppressed anymore. That is the energy of this knight, waiting for the perfect moment, preparing thoroughly, and then executing with precision. And the people who kept the secret, they probably never saw this person as a threat. The Knight of Pentacles is not flashy or obvious. They are easy to underestimate. They are the quiet one taking notes while everyone else is performing. And by the time the secret keepers realized this knight was a threat, it was too late. The evidence was already compiled. The truth was already ready to come out. The Knight of Pentacles in terms of consequences is particularly significant because this card operates in the material realm. This is not just about emotional fallout or relationship damage, although that is certainly happening. This is about tangible, real-world consequences that affect daily life and future plans. Maybe there are financial repercussions, loss of income or assets or inheritance. Maybe there are legal implications, investigations, or lawsuits or criminal charges. Maybe there are professional consequences, loss of reputation in business or community standing. The Knight of Pentacles hits where it hurts in the physical world, in the world of money and resources and status that people can actually lose. What the Knight of Pentacles is also showing me is the theme of work and earning. This Knight is associated with hard work, with building slowly over time, with earning things through consistent effort rather than shortcuts. The karmic message embedded in this Knight's appearance is that the people involved in this secret tried to take shortcuts. They lied instead of doing the hard work of telling truth. They manipulated instead of doing the hard work of genuine relationship. They hid things instead of doing the hard work of accountability and facing consequences. They took the easy path in the moment that led to this much harder path now. Meanwhile, you, Taurus, you did the work. You did the hard work of maintaining your integrity even when it was uncomfortable. You did the hard work of trusting your intuition even when others told you that you were wrong. You did the hard work of walking away from dysfunction even when staying would have been easier. The Knight of Pentacles is showing that hard work pays off, even if it does not look like it in the moment, even if it feels like the people taking shortcuts are winning. Eventually, the truth catches up, and the people who did the real work are the ones still standing. The Knight of Pentacles is also connected to Taurus energy, your energy, which makes this card even more significant. This is showing me that the truth coming out is somehow aligned with your journey, with your growth, with your need to be validated and vindicated. The timing of this revelation is not random. It is happening now because you are ready to witness it, to understand it, to integrate the lessons from it, and move forward. The Knight of Pentacles never rushes, and you were not meant to see this truth earlier. You needed to develop the wisdom, the perspective, the emotional maturity to handle this revelation without it destroying you or pulling you back into drama. Now you have that wisdom, and now the truth can emerge, and you can observe it from a place of groundedness rather than reactivity. I am also seeing with the Knight of Pentacles that this revelation might have financial dimensions that are particularly interesting. Maybe the secret involves money, how it was earned or spent or hidden. Maybe there is inheritance involved, family wealth that was controlled or distributed in ways that were not fair or transparent. Maybe someone was stealing or embezzling or misrepresenting financial situations. The Knight of Pentacles deals with resources and material security, and when this Knight appears in a karmic reading, it often indicates that financial karma is playing out. People who were dishonest with money are facing financial consequences. People who used money to control others are losing that financial power. People who hid financial truths are having those truths exposed in ways that affect their material security. The Knight of Pentacles also represents reputation in the material world, how you are seen in professional and community contexts. I am sensing that the people involved in this secret cared a lot about their reputation, about being seen as successful, stable, trustworthy, respectable in their community. That reputation was probably one of the main reasons the secret needed to be kept, because if it came out, the reputation would be destroyed. And guess what, Taurus? That is exactly what is happening now. The Knight of Pentacles is showing me that their carefully cultivated reputation is crumbling. People who respected them are questioning that respect. Professional relationships are becoming strained. Community standing is evaporating. The Knight of Pentacles shows that when your reputation is built on lies, it is not actually your reputation. It is a character you played, and when the truth comes out, the character disappears, and what is left is who you really are, which might not be nearly as impressive or admirable as the persona suggested. The fourth card that appeared is the Magician, and Taurus. This is where we see the layers of manipulation that went into maintaining this secret for so long. The Magician is card number 1 in the major arcana, the first numbered card after the Fool, and he represents the beginning of conscious creation, the moment when you realize you have tools and skills and the ability to make things happen in the material world. The Magician has all 4 suits laid out before him on his table, wands and cups and swords and pentacles, representing mastery over all elements, all approaches, all methods of manifestation. But the magician is a double-edged card because those same tools can be used for deception instead of creation. The magician can be the con artist, the manipulator, the person who knows exactly what to say and how to say it to get what they want. In this reading, the magician is revealing the level of conscious, deliberate manipulation that went into keeping this secret. This was not passive lying. This was not people simply avoiding the truth. This was active creation of a false narrative, active manipulation of perception, active control of information and image. Someone involved in this situation is or was skilled, possibly very skilled, at controlling how they were perceived. The magician has mastery over communication, which is the sword element, and they use that mastery to craft stories, to spin narratives, to present information in ways that supported their version of events. They knew how to mix truth with lies in just the right proportions to make the lies seem credible. They knew how to give you enough information to make you think you knew the whole story while actually revealing nothing important. They knew how to redirect attention to focus people on irrelevant details while the real secret stayed hidden in the background. The magician also represents someone who can read people and adapt their approach based on what works with that particular person. They might be charming and charismatic with someone who responds to that. They might be authoritative and firm with someone who responds to authority. They might play victim with someone who has a caretaking nature. They might be intellectual and logical with someone who values reason. The magician has the flexibility to become whatever they need to be to manipulate the situation in their favor. And that adaptability, that skill at reading people and giving them what they need to be convinced, that is what made this person so effective at maintaining the deception for so long. What makes the magician particularly dangerous in a manipulation context is that they often believe their own lies, at least partially. They have told the false version of the story so many times, performed the persona so consistently, that they might have lost track of where the lie ends and truth begins. The magician is so skilled at manifestation that they can manifest a reality distortion field around themselves where even they are convinced by their own performance. That is next-level deception, Taurus, when someone is not even consciously aware anymore of how much they are lying, because the lie has become their reality. The magician in this reading is also showing me compartmentalization as a key skill this person used. They could be one version of themselves with one group of people and a completely different version with another group, and never let those worlds collide. They could maintain multiple narratives simultaneously and never slip up, never accidentally tell the wrong story to the wrong person. This requires immense mental energy and skill. It requires keeping track of what you told to whom, what each person believes, what story they are buying into. The magician is showing me that this person was expert level at compartmentalizing their life into separate boxes that never touched each other. The magician also represents timing in terms of manipulation, knowing when to speak and when to stay silent, knowing when to offer information and when to withhold it, knowing when to be present and when to be scarce. A skilled manipulator does not just know what to say, they know when to say it for maximum effect. The magician is showing me that this person had almost preternatural timing, always saying the right thing at the right moment, always managing to diffuse situations before they became dangerous to the secret, always redirecting attention away from uncomfortable truths at exactly the moment people were starting to ask questions. But here is where the magician reveals something about your role in all of this, Taurus, and this is so important. The magician is also about seeing through illusion. While everyone else was being fooled by the performance, while everyone else was buying the act, you saw through it. Maybe you did not have proof at the time. Maybe you could not articulate exactly what was wrong, but you felt it. You sensed the manipulation. You noticed inconsistencies. You picked up on the feeling of being handled rather than being communicated with honestly. The magician acknowledges that your perception was accurate. You were not imagining things. You were not being negative or suspicious or difficult. You were seeing clearly while others were seeing the magic trick, the illusion. The magician is ruled by Mercury, the planet of communication, and when the magician appears in a reading about secrets being revealed, it shows that all those carefully crafted communications, All those manipulated perceptions, all those controlled narratives are now being exposed as the manipulations they always were. Mercury works both ways. It can obscure truth through clever communication, but it also inevitably reveals truth through communication. What was communicated falsely is now being communicated truthfully. What was hidden through skillful misdirection is now being exposed through equally skillful investigation and revelation. The magician also represents power and the use of personal power. This person felt powerful in their ability to control situations, to manipulate outcomes, to maintain the secret. They felt powerful every time they successfully deflected a question, or redirected attention, or convinced someone to stop investigating. That feeling of power was probably addictive, probably part of why they kept doing it, even as the lies got more complex and harder to maintain. But the magician is showing me that power used for manipulation is not real power. It is borrowed power that only works as long as people do not see through it. And once people see through it, once the magic trick is revealed as sleight of hand, that power disappears completely. The manipulator becomes pathetic rather than powerful. I am also seeing with the magician that there might be an element of charm to this person that made them particularly effective at manipulation. Charm is a tool, a form of magic. The magician can be incredibly charming, incredibly likable, incredibly convincing because of that charm. And charm disarms people. It makes people want to believe you. It makes people give you the benefit of the doubt. It makes people override their own intuition, because surely this charming person would not be lying to me. The magician used charm as a weapon, as a distraction, as a way to keep people off balance and unable to trust their own perceptions. The magician is also connected to the element of AIR and mental energy, which means this person probably positioned themselves as smart, clever, possibly intellectual. They might have used their intelligence as a way to intimidate others into not questioning them. They might have made people feel stupid for asking questions or noticing inconsistencies. They might have used complex explanations or intellectual justifications to confuse people who were getting too close to truth. The magician can make simple lies seem complicated, and complicated truths seem simple, all through skillful use of intellect and communication. What the magician is ultimately revealing is that illusion cannot sustain itself indefinitely. Every magic trick, if you watch it enough times, eventually reveals its mechanism. Every manipulation, if it goes on long enough, eventually shows its patterns. Every false narrative, if it gets complex enough, eventually contradicts itself. The magician in this reading is showing that the illusion is collapsing, not because someone waved a wand and dispelled it, but because illusions naturally collapse when they become too elaborate to maintain. The manipulator got tired. They made mistakes. They contradicted earlier lies. They got comfortable and sloppy. And now the mechanism behind the magic trick is visible, and once you see how the trick is done, you can never unsee it. The magic is gone, and all that is left is the sad reality of deception. The fifth card is the Hanged Man. And Taurus, I need you to really sit with this one, because it speaks so directly to what you went through in relation to this situation. The Hanged Man is one of the most misunderstood cards in the tarot deck. People see the imagery of a man hanging upside down and they think punishment, they think suffering, they think helplessness. But the Hanged Man is actually about voluntary suspension, about choosing to wait, about gaining new perspective through stillness and patience. In the context of this reading, the Hanged Man represents the period you were in when you knew or suspected the truth but could not do anything about it. You were in suspension, Taurus. You were hanging in this space of knowing but not being able to prove. You were stuck in this frustrating place where you could see what others could not see or refused to see, but you had no power to make them see it too. You were suspended between truth and lies, between your perception and everyone else's acceptance of the false narrative, between what you knew in your gut and what you could demonstrate with evidence. The Hanged Man period is excruciating for earth signs like you, Taurus, because earth signs want concrete action. You want to do something. You want tangible steps forward. You want progress you can measure. But the Hanged Man demanded that you do nothing, that you wait, that you surrendered to timing that was not in your control. And that waiting, that suspension, it probably felt like torture at times. Watching lies be believed, watching manipulation work on people you cared about, watching guilty people walk around free and confident while you sat with the burden of knowing truth that no one was ready to hear. But here is what the Hanged Man wants you to understand, Taurus. That period of suspension was not wasted time. It was not punishment. It was preparation. While you were hanging upside down, while you were in that forced stillness, you were gaining a perspective that you could not have gained any other way. You were seeing things from an inverted viewpoint, from an angle that revealed truths that are invisible from the normal upright perspective. You were learning to read energy and intention rather than just words and actions. You were developing discernment. You were strengthening your trust in your own intuition, even when external validation was absent. The Hanged Man is associated with the planet Neptune, which rules illusion and delusion, but also spiritual sight, the ability to see beyond the material world into deeper truths. While others were seeing the surface, the performance, the carefully maintained image, the Hanged Man gave you Neptunian vision to see through all of that into what was really happening. You were seeing the energetic truth beneath the material lies. And that sight, that perception, it has served you tremendously, because now that the material proof is emerging, now that everyone else is starting to see what you saw all along, you are not shocked, continue 09, 47, or confused or having to rewrite your understanding of reality. You already knew. The Hanged Man already showed you. The Hanged Man is also about sacrifice, but not the martyred suffering kind of sacrifice. The Hanged Man's sacrifice is strategic, conscious, chosen. You sacrificed your need for immediate justice. You sacrificed your desire to be proven right away. You sacrificed the comfort of having others validate your perception. You sacrificed involvement in the drama and dysfunction because you knew on some level that this was not your battle to fight. That was a hard sacrifice to make, Taurus, but it was the right one. Because if you had tried to force the revelation, if you had tried to expose the secret before the timing was right, it would have backfired. You would have been painted as the crazy one, the troublemaker, the person who could not let things go. The Hanged Man protected you from that by keeping you suspended until the truth could emerge organically, undeniably, in a way that did not require your effort or expose you to backlash. The imagery of the Hanged Man shows him hanging by one foot with the other leg crossed behind it, forming the number 4, which is the number of the Emperor. This connection between the Hanged Man and the Emperor in the numerology of the cards is so significant in this reading. The Emperor that appeared earlier, that authority figure who maintained control through manipulation, they put you in the Hanged Man position. They used their power to suspend you, to keep you silent, to keep you from acting on what you knew. But what they did not realize is that the Hanged Man position, while it looks like powerlessness, is actually a position of tremendous spiritual power. While they thought they were controlling you by keeping you quiet, you were actually being elevated into a higher level of consciousness and perception. The Hanged Man also represents a reversal of perspective, seeing things upside down, which allows you to see truth that is hidden in the right side up view. In the normal view, this family looked functional. This person looked respectable. This situation looked fine. But from the Hanged Man's inverted perspective, you could see the dysfunction, the lies, the manipulation, the rot beneath the shiny surface. What everyone else saw as up, you could see was actually down. What everyone else saw as solid ground, you could see was actually a house of cards ready to fall. The Hanged Man gave you vision that others did not have. And while that vision was lonely and frustrating when no one believed you, it is now proving to be absolutely accurate. The Hanged Man, in terms of timing, is showing me that there was a specific period that you had to wait through. 12 hours on a clock, 12 months in a year. The Hanged Man is card 12 in the major arcana, and that number 12 is about completion of a cycle. You had to wait for a complete cycle to pass. Maybe it was months, maybe it was years. But there was a full cycle that had to complete before the truth could emerge. The Hanged Man kept you suspended for exactly as long as necessary for all the pieces to fall into place, for all the evidence to accumulate, for divine timing to align perfectly. And now that cycle is complete. The waiting is over. The suspension is ending. The hanged man is being cut down, and when he lands on his feet, he will be standing on solid ground of validated truth. I am also seeing with the hanged man the theme of false martyrdom versus true sacrifice. The people involved in keeping this secret probably positioned themselves as martyrs at some point. They probably claimed they were sacrificing their truth, or their comfort, or their desires for the good of the family, for the sake of peace, for protection of others. But the hanged man is revealing that as false martyrdom. Real sacrifice is selfless. Real martyrdom is about giving up something valuable for a higher purpose. What they did was protect themselves and their interests while dressing it up as noble suffering. That is not the hanged man energy. That is just manipulation wearing the hanged man's costume. The hanged man is also connected to the element of water and emotional wisdom. During your suspension period, you had to process a lot of emotions. Frustration, anger, grief, confusion, all of it had to be felt and processed while you waited for truth to emerge. That emotional work was part of the hanged man's teaching. You were learning to hold complex emotional states without acting on them impulsively. You were learning to sit with discomfort without needing immediate resolution. You were developing emotional maturity and wisdom that you needed to be able to handle this revelation now without getting pulled back into toxic dynamics. The hanged man is showing me that part of your suspension was about detachment. You had to learn to detach from the outcome, to stop trying to control when or how the truth would come out, to release your attachment to other people believing you or validating your perception. That detachment was crucial because it allowed you to maintain your peace and sanity while chaos was happening around you. It allowed you to not be reactive or pulled into drama. It allowed you to observe rather than participate. And that observer position, that detached witness perspective, that is where real wisdom lives. You could not have gained that wisdom without the hanged man period forcing you into it. The final message of the hanged man in this reading is that suspension always ends. No matter how long it feels, no matter how permanent it seems in the moment, the period of waiting always completes. The hanged man always gets cut down eventually. And when he does, he takes all the wisdom and perspective he gained during his suspension into his next phase. You are in that moment now, Taurus. The waiting is over. The suspension is ending. You are landing on your feet with absolute clarity about what happened, why it happened, and what it means. The hanged man period was not wasted. It prepared you for exactly this moment. The sixth and final card is Ace of Wands, and Taurus. This is where everything shifts from karmic completion to new beginning. The Ace of Wands is pure fire energy, pure creative potential, pure possibility. This is the spark, the seed, the beginning of something entirely new. And the placement of this card at the end of this reading is the universe saying, okay, you have witnessed karma play out. You have been validated in your perception. You have watched truth emerge after a long period of suspension. Now it is time for your new chapter. The Ace of Wands represents passionate new beginnings that are aligned with your authentic self. While this family is dealing with endings, with consequences, with the collapse of their false structures, you are stepping into beginnings, into possibilities, into fresh creative energy. The contrast could not be more stark. They are in demolition phase. You are in creation phase. They are dealing with what falls apart when lies are exposed. You are building what is possible when you operate from truth. That is the gift of choosing integrity, Taurus. When truth comes out, you are free to move forward, while those who hid from truth are stuck dealing with the past. The Ace of Wands is showing me that you are feeling inspired right now, possibly in ways you have not felt in a long time. Maybe being free from this situation, having your intuition validated, knowing the truth is out has removed a massive block for you. The Ace of Wands represents that moment when you feel excited about your life again, when you feel motivated to create something new, when you feel that spark of, yes, this is my path. That is a gift, Taurus. That enthusiasm, that inspiration, that creative fire, it is yours now. because you are not carrying the weight of someone else's lies anymore. The Ace of Wands is ruled by the fire element, and fire transforms. It burns away what is no longer needed and creates space for new growth. You have been through a fire, Taurus. Watching this situation play out, being in the Hanged Man suspension, dealing with the Magician's manipulation, surviving the Emperor's control, all of that was fire. And you came through it refined, purified, cleared of illusions. The Ace of Wands is the new fire, the creative fire, the passionate fire that builds rather than burns. You have earned this fire, and now you get to use it to create something beautiful and true. The Ace of Wands, in terms of passion, is showing me that you are reconnecting with what you are actually passionate about, what lights you up, what makes you feel alive. When you are trapped in someone else's drama, when you are dealing with lies and manipulation, your passion gets dampened. Your creative fire gets directed toward just surviving, just protecting yourself, just making it through. But now that you are free from that, the Ace of Wands is igniting your authentic passions again. What do you want to create? What do you care about? What excites you? Those questions can finally be answered without the weight of someone else's karma dragging you down. The Ace of Wands is also about courage and taking action from a place of inspired confidence. You have learned so much through this experience. You have developed such clarity about who you are and what you stand for. The Ace of Wands is giving you the courage to act on that clarity, to move forward boldly, to take risks in service of your authentic path. This is not reckless action. This is inspired action. This is action backed by the wisdom you gained during the Hanged Man period, informed by the clear sight that saw through the Magician's illusions, strengthened by your refusal to bow to the Emperor's false authority. The Ace of Wands represents opportunities coming your way, new doors opening, new possibilities appearing that were not available before. This makes sense energetically, Taurus. When you are entangled with other people's karma, when you are carrying other people's secrets, even just by knowing them, your energy is tied up. Opportunities cannot reach you because you are not vibrationally available. But now that this karmic cycle has completed, now that the truth is out and you are validated and free, your energy is clear, you are vibrationally available. And the universe responds to that availability by sending opportunities, connections, ideas, inspirations that align with your authentic path. The Ace of Wands is showing me something specific about a new project or pursuit or direction that is emerging for you. This is not fully formed yet. It is still in seed stage, still in the inspiration phase. But it is exciting. It feels right in a way that things have not felt right in a long time. The Ace of Wands is encouraging you to nurture this seed, to give it attention and energy, to let it grow into whatever it is meant to become. Do not overthink it. Do not let fear or doubt kill it before it has a chance to develop. Just follow the inspiration, follow the passion, follow that sense of yes that the Ace of Wands brings. The Ace of Wands, in relation to the other cards in this reading, is also showing me that your new beginning is part of the karmic balance. It is not enough for the guilty to face consequences. Justice requires that the innocent are rewarded, that the person who maintained integrity gets to benefit from that choice. The Ace of Wands is your reward, Taurus. This new beginning, this fresh creative energy, this sense of inspired possibility, this is what you get for choosing truth, for trusting your intuition, for maintaining your integrity through a very difficult period. Karma is not just about punishment for wrongdoing. Karma is also about reward for right action, and the Ace of Wands is your karmic reward. The Ace of Wands is also connected to identity and authentic self-expression. You are rediscovering who you are outside of this situation, outside of the role you had to play, outside of the identity that was defined in relation to these people and their drama. The Ace of Wands is asking, who are you really? What do you want to create in this world? What is your unique fire, your unique passion, your unique contribution? Those questions can finally be explored authentically now that you are free from the distortion field of other people's lies. I am seeing with the Ace of Wands that there is also an element of leadership emerging for you. Not the false authority of the Emperor, but authentic leadership that comes from walking your talk, from living in alignment with your values, from having the courage to be true even when it was hard. The Ace of Wands often indicates that you have something valuable to offer others, some wisdom or perspective or skill that is needed. Your experience with this situation, the way you navigated it with integrity, the wisdom you gained from the Hanged Man period, all of that positions you to potentially help others who are dealing with similar dynamics. You do not have to take on that role if you do not want to, but the Ace of Wands is showing it is available to you if you choose it. The Ace of Wands is also telling you to trust your instincts moving forward. You have proven that your intuition is accurate. You saw through the magician's illusions. You sensed the emperor's false authority. You knew truth was being hidden even when everyone else accepted the lies. The Ace of Wands is saying that same intuition that served you so well in this situation will serve you in your new beginning. Trust the inspiration. Trust the excitement. Trust that sense of rightness when you feel it. Your inner guidance system is calibrated correctly, Taurus, and the Ace of Wands is giving you permission to follow it boldly. The final thing I want to say about the Ace of Wands is that it represents your power, in contrast to the false power we saw with the Emperor and the Magician. Real power does not come from controlling others, or manipulating perception, or maintaining authority through fear. Real power comes from being authentically yourself, from creating from a place of truth, from having the courage to follow your passion even when others do not understand. The Ace of Wands is pure, authentic power, and that power is yours now. You do not have to take it from anyone. You do not have to manipulate to get it. You do not have to maintain any false image to keep it. It is yours because you earned it through integrity, and no one can take that away from you. So let me bring all of this together for you, Taurus, because this reading tells a complete story. The Lovers showed us the foundational choice to deceive, the decision point where truth was abandoned in favor of protecting the secret. The Emperor revealed the authority structure that enforced that secret, that demanded silence and compliance, that built an entire kingdom on a lie. The Knight of Pentacles showed us how the truth is emerging methodically, with concrete evidence, in a way that cannot be denied or gaslight. The Magician exposed the skilled manipulation that maintained the illusion for so long, the conscious, calculated deception that fooled so many, but not you. The Hanged Man honored your period of suspension, your time of knowing but waiting, your development of wisdom and perspective through forced stillness. And the Ace of Wands brings it full circle with your new beginning, your reward for integrity, your fresh creative fire ready to build something true and lasting. This is a complete karmic cycle playing out in real time, Taurus. The secret that was built on lies, maintained through manipulation, enforced by false authority, that secret could not stand once truth began its slow, methodical emergence through the Knight of Pentacles. The people who chose deception at the Lovers' Crossroads are now facing the consequences of that choice. The family that operated in the Emperor's control structure is now watching that structure crumble. The Magician's illusions have been exposed. The Hanged Man's waiting period is over. And you get to walk away with the Ace of Wands, with new beginning energy, with creative fire, with inspired passion for your authentic path. This is not about celebrating anyone's downfall, Taurus. This is about understanding that universal law is real, that karma is real, that truth always finds a way. These people are not being punished by some vengeful force. They are experiencing the natural consequences of choices they made, patterns they established, lies they maintained. The universe is simply correcting an imbalance, restoring truth where lies existed, bringing light where there was darkness. It is impersonal in a sense, just natural law playing out, but it is also deeply personal in terms of how it affects everyone involved. For you, this is complete validation of everything you sensed, everything you knew, everything you tried to tell others but could not prove. You were right, Taurus. Your intuition was accurate. Your perception was clear. Your choice to walk away from dysfunction, to maintain your integrity, to trust your inner knowing even when everyone else was buying the lie, that choice positioned you on the right side of this karmic equation. And now you get to witness the truth emerging while you are free to move forward into your Ace of Wands' new beginning. The dark secret that has come to light is doing exactly what secrets do when exposed. It is burning through lies, burning through false images, burning through manipulation, burning through the family structure that existed to protect it. And what is left after the burn is raw truth, undeniable reality, the clear vision of who these people really are and what they were really protecting. The family cannot handle it because the family was not built to handle truth. It was built to suppress truth. Every structure, every rule, every dynamic was designed to keep the secret safe. And now that the secret is out, those structures serve no purpose, and they are collapsing. But you can handle it, Taurus. You can handle the truth because you were never afraid of it. You were never invested in the lie. You never built your sense of self or security on maintaining the illusion. You can look directly at what is being revealed without it shaking your foundation because your foundation was already built on truth, on integrity, on authentic values. That is the gift of choosing the harder path in the moment. When revelation comes, you are not scrambling to rebuild your understanding of reality. You are just watching your understanding be validated. So as you move forward from here, I want you to carry these messages with you. Remember that the lovers showed you the importance of choosing truth at every crossroads, even when the easy path is right there tempting you. Remember that the emperor's false authority always eventually crumbles, while authentic integrity stands firm. Remember that the Knight of Pentacles' patient, methodical approach to truth-telling is more powerful than dramatic emotional explosions. Remember that the magician's illusions only work on people who do not trust their own perception, and you have proven you trust yours. Remember that the Hanged Man's suspension period, as frustrating as it was, gave you wisdom and perspective you could not have gained any other way. And remember that the Ace of Wands is your new beginning, your creative fire, your opportunity to build something true and lasting and aligned with your authentic self. The universe sees you, Taurus. The universe knows who operated with integrity and who operated with deception. The universe is responding accordingly. Let them deal with their consequences. You focus on your new beginning. You focus on that creative fire that is ignited in you now. You focus on building something real and true and yours. That is your assignment moving forward, not to watch their downfall or get caught up in their drama or waste energy on what they are going through. Your assignment is to honor the Ace of Wands, to follow that inspiration, to create from authentic passion, to build the life you are meant to have now that you are free from their karmic weight. I hope this reading brought you the clarity and validation you needed, Taurus. If these messages resonated with you, if you felt the truth of what the cards were saying, let me know in the comments. And remember, karma is real, timing is divine, integrity is rewarded, and truth always wins in the end. Always.